Good morning, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started here. My name is Katie Demetz, and we have a team here today who have been working with us for several months now to pull together this collective models working group. I don't know if working group is quite the right term. We've evolved over time, but we've been doing a lot of sort of co-learning and sharing together about different sort of collective land efforts that we're interested in or working on or might be looking towards in the future. Really happy to see you all here today. I'm going to be sort of in the background helping facilitate today, helping manage the Q&A. And I'm going to hand it over for some intros to the lovely Jean Willoughby, who's here from Agrarian Trust, and she's going to share a little bit more about our speaker for today, Luis Marcos, who we're so excited is joining us.
Thanks, Katie, and yeah, welcome again, everyone. Looking forward to just getting right into it. So we won't keep you too long, but I did want to introduce Luis. He belongs to the Mayan Nation. He's based in Omaha, Nebraska, and I've been really privileged and honored to work with Luis and his community for over the past year. And so he is a spiritual and political authority within the Mayan Nation and government systems, also ambassador to the Omaha tribe of Nebraska. And he also sits on the Indigenous Peoples Summit Planning Committee, which is an incredible event that Agrarian Trust has helped support last year. We sent our team, and also this year we are really honored to be also on the planning committee supporting the work just as a supporting organization, and just really thrilled. And I'll put a link in the chat, and Luis can share the exact dates. For some reason, they just left my mind. I know it's in September. And so we'll share that. You're welcome to support that, learn about it. It's a multiracial, multi-ethnic summit, and Luis has just been doing incredible work in terms of cross-indigenous nation organizing, and just really can't express how much I just adore and admire Luis, and just have so much love and respect for the work that he has done over the past few years. And we will also be working together. We're really proud to share that we've just received an increasing land access grant from the USDA, and we'll be working together for the next 5 years. Agrarian Trust will be supporting the purchase and growth of a 300-acre farm in Nebraska, a regenerative agriculture farm and spiritual and cultural center. And Luis is doing a lot of the work on the ground to help organize that and build the foundation for that. And so I'll let Luis, fill in any gaps, anything I might have missed, and just feel free, Luis, to share anything else you feel like the group should know about the different collaborations you're involved with. I know you just do so much, and I just don't know if I could really capture it in a simple intro, but I'm going to hand the floor to you.
No, thank you, Jean, and thank you, Katie, for this opportunity to share. And first, again, like Jean said in her introduction, my name is Luis Marcos. I belong to the Mayan Nation, spiritual and political authority within the Maya, but also right now living, my wife and I live on the sacred land of the Omaha Nation here, and I am also the ambassador appointed by our government to the government of the Omaha Nation here in the state of Nebraska. And I just wanted to maybe reflect a little bit in the sacred Maya calendar. Today, the energy is Hana, which means it's this energy that says that we are all interconnected, we're all related, and just the name of your group, Collective Models. It's just, I feel like there's just this beautiful energy coming together. In our worldview, in our spirituality, we believe that we come from the stars, and that we're here on Earth, we're stars, and we're here to shine. Everyone here, wherever you work, you're leadership roles in the institutions or your communities. It's a beautiful network that you are creating as you've come together. And Katie was sharing how you have been really talking about many different topics. And I have a sense, I feel a sense of responsibility to really, hopefully, by the end of this presentation today, this conversation today, you've learned a little bit about us that can hopefully help you. And for sure, by being connected, you're already helping us here today. So with that, if we could go to the slides. And again, like Jean said, please feel free to interrupt, raise your hands, and because it would be nice if we were sitting, together in a room in a circle and going through this, having a conversation, and yet we're here, and wow, this is absolutely beautiful. More than 30 people joining. That's a really big number. That speaks to, the leadership of the group and everyone's energy. So in my presentation today, I'll talk about the Hanjobal Maya people. And I'll also talk about an evidence-based process called Native Nations Rebuilding, not only here in the United States, but also how we're doing it in Maya, in our territory, and how we are returning to our spiritual relationship with Mother Earth, and a program that we call the Maya Regeneration Project here. So the next one, okay, so basically, the Maya, our territory extends from South Mexico, the entire state of Guatemala, the northwestern portions of El Salvador and Honduras. All of those are contemporary states on Maya territory. And since, before colonization, the Mayas, one of the very sophisticated civilization, especially in architecture. If you have visited Tikal or Chichen Itza and all of these places, you will witness the level of, our knowledge in mathematics, in architecture, astronomy, and particularly agriculture. It is the Maya who first cultivated corn, developed this spiritual relationship with corn that we know today. And so it was a very, very highly sophisticated civilization, but since colonial era, we have suffered multiple cycles of violence, including genocide. From 1960, one example of that is from 1960 to 1996, there was this genocide that took place. And according to the UN report, they say that the state of Guatemala committed over 600 massacres, completely, totally burned down over 400 villages. They killed, disappeared, tortured, over 200,000 people, and millions had to go into exile into different parts of the world, including Europe and the United States. So today we are here we think there are about 3 million people of Maya origin in the United States, which makes us the largest, displaced indigenous nation. And we think there are about 20,000 people of Maya origin in the state of Nebraska alone, and about 4,000 in the city of Omaha alone. And so this is why we talk about nation rebuilding. We came across this study called the Native Nations Rebuilding, and this is a project, by the Harvard Project on American Indian Economic Development and the Native Nations Institute of the University of Arizona. Really, what we're attempting to do here is, healing Mother Earth and healing humanity, right? Because in our worldview and in our spirituality, we as human family are one. Mother Earth is us, we are Mother Earth, and so there is no separation. And so in that, spirit, we talk about, these 5 principles of that are prerequisites to to our development. And one of those is, our sovereignty as a displaced indigenous nation. So in the United States, we don't take labels like immigrants or illegal immigrants or things like that. We articulate our presence as a displaced indigenous peoples, and we exercise our pre-existing rights, to travel this continent. If we go back to the example of corn and the three sister system of milpa, where corn, bean, and squash, this system of agriculture that, that we plant together and live together to support each other. This system is a system that was started, most scholars will tell you it started by the Maya, and then through trade, we spread or share the knowledge and the system with other indigenous relatives here in the North. And so we really exercise our pre-existing rights. And in 2007, there was a UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples that recognized that right. So we talk about sovereignty, we talk about, our institutions that to back up that sovereignty. We talk about that the institutions that we're creating match the political culture of the nation we serve, in this particular, case, the Maya. And in our decision-making process, we're strategic. We're not reactive to an opportunity or a crisis, but we're thinking about 50, 100 years from here. And that's how we decide, the activities that we do every day. And again, in our process, we talk about and we really look for public-spirited leadership. So we're not looking for our own interest, but we're looking for what's good for not only for us as a nation, but what's good for other indigenous nations, and what is also good for the different states that we interact with. And when I talk about states, I'm talking about republics, including Canada or United States or Mexico or Guatemala. How do we, really live in harmony and equilibrium with everyone? And so if we can go to the next slide, I use this slide just as guiding, to guide the conversations, but I'm not gonna go through each one of them. So there are 4 principles that guide our work, and principle number 1 is spiritual sovereignty, and the other principle is our territorial integrity. Again, we are given labels like you're a Mexican, or you're a Guatemalan, or you're Salvadorian or Belizean, or whatever. We don't take those labels. There are all colonial states on our land. So we really talk about our identity. We're Quiche Maya, we are Anjobal Maya, we are Ixil. There's about only within the borders of the Guatemala state, there are 23 different Maya languages. We're a nation of nations. And so we're beginning to really come together to talk about our territory instead of seeing ourselves through like the borders, of the contemporary states. Political autonomy. We are building our government, a sovereign government, and so that we can make our own decisions, and then our earth-based economic development as well. Really, how do we coexist with Mother Earth, right? So those are the 4 principles that guide our work. And if we can go to the next slide. Again, in international law, there are many, there's some criteria to be able to say we're a nation. There are certain criteria in international law. And again, one of those criteria is, do you have a territory? And what is your relationship with that territory, especially your sacred sites? So that's the genesis of our jurisdiction and jurisprudence over our land, territory, and our nation. people, people or a nation, there's about 15 to 20 million people living on Maya territory. Some people think of us as, a civilization of the past. We're very much alive. We're alive. We're thriving. We have a unique worldview and spirituality. We have our very own story of creation. We all have our own government systems. And again, some of our accomplishments includes, in the areas of arts, medicine, agriculture, architecture, astronomy, mathematics, calendars, and just things like that. Is all of those coming together makes us a nation. And so that's very important in as we articulate our work here. If we could go to the next slide. Some people, like especially those that say they study the Maya civilization or any other Native American group, really talk about how the Maya disappeared, and they have debates amongst themselves about that. But I really don't have a reason to believe a word they say. But one thing that we know for sure is the impact of something we call the international legal construct known today as the doctrine of discovery. And so this is basically, something, a series of papal bulls issued by the Catholic Church that really calls us animals, savages, enemies of Christ, all of these things to justify the taking of our territory, our land, and calls for our, perpetual slavery and things like that. And so this thing called the doctrine of discovery is really institutionalized today in what they call international law. It was institutionalized here, I think, 1821 through that case called there was this infamous case here, 1821. The name of the case will come. But yeah, it's through that. It's very much present, and this is why in Guatemala alone right now there's only 13, 14 families of European origin that owns the entire land. My family probably has. My parents had about had 12 kids. I got to know 6 of them. 6 passed before I got to know them. And we only have maybe 2 acres of land for that entire family of 12, whereas 12 families own most of Guatemala. And that's also U.S., institutions, U.S. businesses own massive amounts of land, churches, the Guatemala state itself, military. So that's all of those is based on this international legal construct known as the doctrine of discovery that really says we're not human. And because we're not humans, we're not entitled to have land. And so this is why we need to be governed by, by all of these other, systems like the state or the republics on our land. If we can go to the next. So as of right now, we have, again, the Maya as a nation. In our particular case, we have the Janjobal Maya government. And we do have an NGO called the Comunidad Maya Pixan Ixim. Basically, this is a community development organization dedicated to health, and education and things like that. And then we also have the what we call the Maya Economic Development Corporation, which is basically a holding company for the Janjobal Maya nation. And soon we will be talking about a Maya Agrarian commons. And if we can go to the next slide, and please raise your hands, and if you really, if you have any questions, and I want to be aware of time. So basically, what happened here during COVID is that, when COVID hit, as in 2020, and we saw what was happening in major cities in the United States, like New York and other places. And we just saw the number of people that was dying, right? And so the first thing that came to our mind as an indigenous group is, if this is happening in the United States, first world country, what chances do we as indigenous nations stand to survive something like this? And so I, on a very personal level, being so naive, I got really scared, and also some of our community members who are younger also got really scared and panicked. But what we found out is that when we communicated, when we talked with our elders, they said, hey, this is not the first time we have been through this before. So we know exactly what to do. We know our medicine, we know our plants and all of this. And so this is when we decided to go back to that in the United States, to go back to that spiritual relationship, with Mother Earth. And this is when we really talk about having, an agriculture program to really have roots in Nebraska, but also really contribute to the economic well-being of our community, but also to contribute to the well-being of the state of Nebraska as well. And if we could go to the next slide. Again, yeah, this is planting our seed at our Maya Community Center. If we could go to the other slide, maybe we can. Yeah, so here is where this is the Maya Community Center here after we launched the Maya Regeneration Project feasibility study. We have a four-step process. The first thing that we wanted to do, the previous slide showed how we planted our sacred seed, which is corn. So we planted our sacred seeds at this Maya Center. We called it our Gardens of Hope. And then we set a goal to purchase that little property that you see over there, just to the south of it. There's a building that we wanted to purchase, and we wanted to use this building, keep this as a sacred site to plant our sacred seeds, perform our sacred ceremonies and community gatherings, training center, and everything. As step number 2, and the step number 3 is to purchase 310 acres of land in Lyons, Nebraska. And again, I think Jean mentioned this earlier today, that we can officially announce that we have secured about 80% of the funds to purchase this land. And then the 4th step is to actually implement a regenerative agriculture program. So we can say that we have been planting our sacred seeds successfully. We didn't actually end up purchasing this property. It's probably less than an acre, but instead we have secured an 8.5 acre of land in another region of Omaha, Nebraska. So we have we can check that off too. And plus now with this announcement of securing this big amount of funding for the 310, I think we're doing really, really well, advancing. So if we can go to the next slide. Again, Perry Warden is an ally that graduated from Creighton University here. He has done a study. He really studied what the Ho-Chunk community is. If you don't know about Ho-Chunk Inc., Ho-Chunk Inc. is a holding company of the Omaha tribe. No, it's not the Omaha, the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska here. And they were started in the 1990s when the Winnebago had 80% unemployment rate. And now they're down to like 30%. And we're honored to be mentored by Lance Morgan, their president and CEO. They started probably with a couple of $100,000, and they have now a $12 billion capital. And so they are very, and this is the model we're following through the Native Nations rebuilding, evidence-based process. So if we can go to the next program here. Yeah, it just again shows how, we intend to, while right now we're seeking public, and private funds to get us going, really our main goal is to follow Ho-Chunk. Ho-Chunk Inc. right now is supporting other organizations. There are other prosperous indigenous nations like the Shakopee Nation, who they actually give to the state, they give to the city, and that's our goal. Our goal is not to just continue receiving, funding or seeking funding, but really our goal is to get public, private funds to rebuild our nationhood, and eventually we want to be also be in a more powerful way to contributing to the well-being of others and providing funding ourselves. So, but again, here's some models that we have been looking at, and again, we were for the first, after our feasibility study, we also got into what we call expectations, managing expectations. Like we don't really want to get into saying too much because we didn't have really anything solid. So this, what you see over here, this land stewardship strategy and Agrarian Commons model is something that we've worked out with the Agrarian Trust, but we will continue fine-tuning this with the community. And now that we have this grant to work together, I'm sure Jean and her team will be traveling here, and we'll have more detailed conversations about how to go about it. So again, I'm sure you, through your other workshops, you probably have seen these too. We want to create a holding entity. Right now, since we created the Mayan Economic Development Corporation, it's probably going to be as a holding company, it's going to probably be an entity under the Mayan Economic Development Corporation that will hold title, and then we'll have the community oversee all of that. And then it's just those bullet points about how to, how we will be operating. If we can go through the next slides, again, equity is an important, principle that we will be following here. And if you can just look at it and read a little bit about what it's saying. Again, with our target population here is for this specific project is the Maya community, but again, through the summit, what we really are attempting to do is, instead of just focusing on one farm, because we understand that if we're going to heal the soil, if we're going to heal water, if we're going to have an impact on human health, it's not going to happen from a 310-acre farm. It's going to require the entire system, and that's why we're having the summit. And the Indigenous People Summit is a conversation between Indigenous peoples' governments and also state governments, elected officials, academia, and philanthropy coming together, using that private and public partnership approach to really come together. So we would love to see one of the models that we want to use is a poultry-based agroforestry system. So, just for purposes of diversifying revenue resources, we don't want to just do one thing, but it would be good if, like, for example, if we do some of this, poultry-based, some of it, Winnebago, and the Omaha and others do a little bit, we come together so that we have enough volume to go, to the marketplace for selling and transportation and all of these things, processing plants and things like that. One institution can't have all of those, but I think that if we collectively come together and share all of these resources, create these nation-owned enterprises, and create citizen entrepreneurship programs, I think that's what we are attempting to do here through this, land access. A little more about the model that we want to use, and Katie can really share, this slide with the group later if you want to, because I feel like I normally don't talk this much, and right now I'm feeling already kind of guilty. So if we can go to the next slide and see if there's anything else I can highlight. Otherwise, we'll just go through this. This is when we started 2-3 years ago. Now, we have done steps 1, 2, and 3. We will be positioning to go to step 4, which is implementing. So we can go to the next slide. We did a lot of, this is just some of the studies, some of the resources, academic works that we consulted. There's that preliminary study on the doctrine of discovery. There's that link. I hope it still can take you to the study if you want to look at it. Guatemala Memory of Silence gets into how the genocide happened in Guatemala. Some of it very descriptive. The UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples is an international legislation that really supports our work. When we engage with philanthropy, especially when we engage with state elected officials, and they look at us like we're weird, we just tell them, hey, the United States signed the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, please look at it, and they pretty much accept that as a good answer. And again, there is that, the other link talks about the, Native Nations Rebuilding. There's a beautiful study by the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Peoples called Indigenous Peoples' Rights in the Context of Borders. Sovereignty is inherent, and inalienable. So we don't leave it behind when we are displaced from our ancestral land. We carry it with us. And this is the basis we're using to build the Maya government in the United States, and some other international legislation that supports the work we do. With that, I think there's more resources there, like how we came to this understanding and these processes and all of this. And we can go to the next slide and see if we can, again, more of these visits that we did, people that welcomed us into their farms to see what they're doing. There's one in particular, Mark Shepard, and if you are into agroforestry system, you probably know about this Mark Shepard, who is a world-renowned person in agroforestry. We can go to the next slide, and so Jill Wells with the Nature Conservancy helped us do the feasibility study. Graham Christensen with Regenerative Nebraska, Laura Thomas, again, Perry Warden, he helped us get the economic development started. And again, I will just end this by saying that I really aim to be a good interpreter for the Maya women in Omaha. Most of them speak Tanhobal Maya language only as their primary language. Some of them don't speak Spanish or English. And so my role, as I see it, is to be the best interpreter I can be. But really, as hopefully you can come to the Indigenous People Summit, and Jean will come and know these leaders in the near future here, and you will know what I mean, because really my aim is to be a good interpreter. With that, I'll just say thank you, and I hope you took away something of value here. Thank you.
Thank you, Luis. I think we could give you a round of applause, even though you won't hear it because it's Zoom. We know that people are giving you that applause energy. And we're just really, really grateful for all the work that you've done and continue to do. I mean, that this is many, many years in the making is certainly not lost on us at Agrarian Trust, but for those who might have joined late and might have missed some of the intro, just wanted to share that we're, in a partnership, really grateful to Luis and the Maya Economic Development Corporation in Nebraska. We'll be working together for the next 5 years on a major land access initiative. And so Luis, as he mentioned, like Maya did in 2021, a major feasibility study to implement this regenerative agriculture program. We're looking at a 310 acre farm, and Agrarian Trust is going to be helping with financing close to 80% of the purchase price, as well as working to help form the Maya Commons, and working together with technical assistance providers from Tufts University's new entry program, Cornell also, American Farmland Trust doing work on soil science and studies of the land to make sure that we can make this a really, really successful project. So just a lot of different groups coming together, as well as the Nature Conservancy. And so I think that my wonderful colleague Nathan put in the chat that the Indigenous People Summit is September 13th through 15th. And Luis mentioned that. And so you have the themes there. The themes are land back and sovereignty, culture, let's see, climate change, survival of Indigenous economic alternatives, and self-sufficiency. And so we feel that we can all learn so much from that. And so Agrarian Trust is really excited to be serving as a supporting organization for the summit again this year. And Luis, did you want to add anything else about the summit, or any information, anything that folks are, excited about, or that you wanted to share? And then also, folks, feel free to click on the flyer, and that'll be updated with more information. But anything you wanted to add, Luis, on the summit?
On the summit, like,
are there ways people can contribute, or is it open to anyone who wants to register?
It is open to anyone who wants to register. It's called the Indigenous People Summit because we really do want to talk about Indigenous people's sovereignty and their understanding of, environmental justice and things like that. But it really is an interdisciplinary and multi-institutional conversation, especially intergovernmental. And when I say intergovernmental, I mean Indigenous people's government and with state government. So we have policymakers, we invite elected officials to come, academic institutions, and everyone really. There is a call for participation if anybody wants to continue sponsoring or be a sponsor. I think we can facilitate that call for participation document. It's very simple. It's a very grassroots too. And so we're all running, we don't have an event planner. We're all running it from, just a volunteer. But everybody, it's open to the public, anyone that wants to learn more or contribute to the conversation of Indigenous sovereignty as a principle, as a prerequisite for harmony and equilibrium.
Yeah, thank you, Luis. And so we've got, again, information in the chat for folks. I see people have clicked on the link and are checking out the flyer, so that's wonderful. We do have the ability to post. We're going to be posting resources, and we'll post a video from this conversation. I know there was a lot to take in. So I think folks already mentioned, would love to look at the presentation in more depth because there's so much there and so much we can learn from. And for those who are, I think I'd like to take a poll maybe and just find out, are there any groups in the room who are or folks in the room rather that are working with Indigenous groups or representing an Indigenous group or interested in collaborating with Indigenous communities in your area? So I just want to take a poll, and feel free to mention in the chat or just raise your hand. Anyone in that boat working with Indigenous communities, by, for, and with Indigenous communities? Anyone? So most people here are maybe, I see Aton, raise your hand if you'd like to share. I see Athena raised a hand. Would you like to share? Or do you have any questions related to working with Indigenous communities? Catherine?
Yeah, real quick, Atten, he, him, comrade. I'm with the Rerooted Futures Initiative based out of Jackson, Mississippi. And we have an intersectional climate justice hub down here called the Mississippi People's Movement. We were formerly Mississippi for a Green New Deal under Taproot Earth. But we actually do have some members of the Choctaw Nation, Mississippi Choctaw Nation in our hub. And they have Choctaw Fresh, which is a farm up in Philadelphia or whatnot, Philadelphia, Mississippi, that's doing some great work or whatnot. And I would advise Louis to really pull them up on Google. Or actually, I can actually put you in contact with one of the, I'll drop my email in the chat, and I can put you in contact with one of the directors or whatnot. But they have an excellent model where they really, I forget the exact grant that they got from USDA, but it basically just kind of supports and sustains them as they provide food for their community. And I want to say they have at least, I want to say about 8 hoop houses or whatnot, and they're just in continuous production year round. I'll drop my email in the chat so I can make that connection or whatnot. But I'm also interested in working with other indigenous groups like Pine Ridge and the Lakota and the Dakota Sioux, because they have a lot of resources. They have a resource base regarding land, but I come from bio-intensive market production agriculture, permaculture and things like that. So I'm really passionate about how do we leverage land to actually create, the wealth that we need to sustain ourselves. My ancestors were brought here as rice producers, from West Africa, and we helped create, the wealth for this colony or whatnot. So I'm real big on, how do we leverage what we did for others for ourselves and our allies? And I think that there's a lot of potential for that within the context of this system that really, it honestly only pays, farmers make 11 cents per dollar for everything that they produce or whatnot. I've seen some of those numbers. It's not good. So it's we have a lot of potential here to really reconnect people to the farmers. And I think that that's one of the most important things that we can do, because this capitalist system, they're not going to support farmers, and they're not going to support people that eat food, which is everybody. So yeah, I'll drop my email in the chat. Sure.
Thank you. Appreciate you. And all the work that you're tapped into is really exciting to hear about. So we really appreciate that. And these events have been so much about making connections and for people sharing who you're connected with and different ideas for us to follow up on. So I also saw Athena and Catherine, if you wanted to share. Certainly we'll open up the floor if there any thoughts you wanted to share or examples.
Yeah, thank you so much, Luis, for sharing this abundant information and your work. It's such a joy and very uplifting to be witness to the work that y'all are doing, what y'all are growing. So many questions and curiosities have come up in the process, and I don't want to take up too much space, but I'll say that I'm working with a group, Wild Tea Community Farm and Healing Village, based in the Hudson Valley in New York. And some questions. The current formation is a predominantly Black and other people of color, femme and women-led leadership is supporting the evolution of this formation. But the intention is to be in preservation and healing in the land, and including healing relationships between Black and Indigenous folk who have experienced displacement and genocide in different ways, but also who are still reckoning with those realities in the present time, right? And so I would love to hear from you if this feels relevant to you and you'd like to share something about what how you see the relationship between your community and maybe non-indigenous communities who would like to support your work, or who are also exploring land justice and would like to support and be involved in land back and land sovereignty movements, but who may not themselves be indigenous to the land, embody maybe other marginalized identities, but who are exploring what it means to be present on the land, to be stewards of the land with intention, but without claiming ownership to the land. And so I think that that's a very common and ongoing challenge for many of us who are working in the area of land stewardship. And I'm also, another area of curiosity for us is what are opportunities to be in formal land holding frameworks that support the land sovereignty that we're all trying to build toward. So something light, I know, easy questions, but just sharing some questions that we are navigating, and whatever you or others may feel you would like to share, would love to hear. And either way, we'll continue to support and admire your work from afar, and hoping for other opportunities to learn together.
Yeah. Thank you, Athena. I mean, very profound, questions, and very powerful. And for sure, I will not have the answer, but I think we all have the answers. And so, if anyone wants to contribute to that, I think it's also good. But from what I from my perspective, from where I am, and from where I come from, is we work with everyone. Just the centerpiece of Maya worldview and spirituality is that we're here to live in harmony and equilibrium, not only with humanity and humanity with diversity in religion, political systems, economic systems, cultures, just belief systems, but also Mother Earth, the plants, the animals, the rivers, the universe. And so in that spirit, we are not inferior or superior to any form of life. We're just one element of life. And so in that sense, we want to work with everyone. Now, when it comes to, like, the number one thing I do everywhere I go is to really understand that and be honorable and say, I am on the territory of the Omaha, nation. And so I always open anything with that statement, and as much as I can advance their sovereignty, and then from there, really just work and collaborate with everyone. It's not easy, really, to live, especially, Nebraska is a very conservative state, red state, very conservative, and yet these difficult, topics we're talking about. And so I think there is a way, if you come from a space of harmony and equilibrium and spirituality and authenticity in what we do, in a collective process, there is still room to talk about difficult situations and difficult topics, historical. Now I remember the name of this case, called Johnson v. McIntosh, is this 1821 case where the doctrine of discovery was institutionalized into US law, and from there into international law. And there's that study done that you can look into. Again, using we use that Native Nations rebuilding as a very rigorous academic work to really just get our point across. And again, other international legislations of human rights, just to make it palatable for some people, especially state elected officials. And then really, I think those are the most difficult spaces, is philanthropy, for us to make, for philanthropy to understand what we're talking about. State elected officials, I think those are the most, difficult, spaces to be into, because how do you get into those spaces without, and still not compromise the principles, that guides your work. And we have, and it's taken us over a decade to develop those relationships, where right now, people are more, they at least they're opening a little bit up to listening to what we're trying to say and what we're trying to do. I hope that helped, but I'm sure there's more that I missed. And so if anyone else wants to contribute to that, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I just wanted to echo that. Thank you, Athena, for sharing some about your work, and I hope there can be some follow-up calls that come off of this, come out of this experience, because we know that an hour and a half is not nearly enough to delve deep into this. This is just meant to kind of pique people's curiosity, give people a space to share some questions, and really to get excited about this work too, and get intrigued about what are some of the kind of complexities and challenges that can motivate us to keep doing this work, and figuring out how do we create these collective landholding entities, and how do we embrace some of these other frameworks. Like the Native Nations Rebuilding Framework was not something Agrarian Trust was working with before we began to collaborate with Luis and the Mayan Nation. So it's really exciting to get to advance our knowledge of how do we do land, food sovereignty work, and incorporating these different frameworks. So I did see Catherine, your hand was up earlier. Did you still want to share?
Hi, Jean. Yeah, hi, Jean. Thank you. And Louise, thank you so much for sharing with us today. I'm just going to say a few words about the work I'm doing with the Bois Forte Ojibwe, bands of Ojibwe up in northern Minnesota, and then, invite you to consider whether this might be of use in Nebraska, this model. So first I'll say this is a project with solar panels going up on factories, but also farmland throughout the United States right now. There's an opportunity to take some of those free solar savings, measure those and from electric bills, and then have them sent into a trust. So that's what I'm doing. And so the trust we have now is going in what we need for the governance of this trust is to indigenize the governance of it. And so right now with the Bois Forte, we have a factory that's putting up solar, and this will go, their savings will go into a trust, and the Bois Forte Ojibwe Food Sovereignty Project is the recipient of this 20-year trust that lasts as long as the solar panels. So 20 years, we spent the last 2 years with the Bois Forte Ojibwe creating the business plan, basically the purpose of the trust. For 2 years, what would the food sovereignty work be over 20 years that they could put into the purpose of the trust and have this steady income stream that could support their food sovereignty coordinator, etc. So we're creating the models for this. We're creating the legal structures and some digital peer governance structures so that people can see everything that's going on transparently and govern their funds. So I imagine that in Nebraska, you're going to see solar going up all around. And there are federal funds coming out that require community benefit plans happen for people near the solar. Could this be a model for some of the work you're doing? They're not big, it's not a big amount of money, but it is a long-term, steady amount of money. And it moves into, I imagine, the things you're working on, which is indigenizing the governance of you know, how these funds can be used on the land. So I'll just leave it at that.
No, thank you. You know, I mentioned how we, you know, just acquired 8.5 acres of land in a zip code that is completely and totally abandoned. And so like everyone there lives under poverty levels. And so we intend to install microgrids for in that and around that neighborhood revitalization. So yeah, we'll be in contact with through Jean and Katie, and hopefully we can adopt the model too. Yeah, that is very helpful. Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah, that was really wonderful to hear about, Catherine. Thank you. Just want to ditto that. So we are really excited to continue to do Q&A for those who just joined. Luis gave a fabulous presentation. We have recorded this session, so we'll be sharing the video. We'll edit it and have it up probably within the next week or so. We usually have it up pretty quickly. We'll also share the slides, so you get to take a look at all of the work that's gone into the creation of the Maya Regeneration project. And so any other thoughts or questions? I thought that might be a good moment actually to share that we also have resources up on our website, agrariantrusts.org/land. We are sharing all the resources from this series there. So we don't have everything up yet. There's been a lot, but that's the link where everything will be living for, you know, forever on Agrarian Trust site. And I think maybe, Luis, if you could speak a little bit more about that 8.5 acre property. It's in North Omaha. There was a building also. It was held by Omaha Permaculture, which is a group that essentially merged with you all, and they donated the land and the building to you. Is that right? I wonder if you could say a little more about that, because we also have a resource we could share that's relevant to that for groups that are looking to have you know, to pursue land or donations of real property to your organization. So I was hoping you could maybe say a little more about that urban project that you're working on, Luis.
So this 8.5 acres is in, if you know Omaha, Nebraska, is a very segregated community. Probably, I don't know how we rank when it comes to cities across the United States when it comes to segregation. Basically, North Omaha is African American. South Omaha is mostly Latino, Hispanic immigrants, recent immigrants. And the West Omaha is mostly white, you know, people. And that's how segregated Omaha is. This 8.5 is in North Omaha. And Omaha Permaculture is an organization here in the city of Omaha that basically just really was very honorable in terms of understanding, like when you talk about permaculture, you really are talking about indigenous agriculture. And when we told them that, shared the story that we couldn't purchase this, you know, property that I showed you before, for political reasons, they said, well, you know, we feel like this land, this property really belongs to an indigenous-led organization. So we talked about merging, and they said, the executive director said, well, we can give you the property. They got it from the land bank. So if there's any, if your city has a land bank, I think that's a good resource for, you know, land donations in urban area. And so it being in this pretty much divested neighborhood, we intend to use evidence-based models to really revitalize not only that 8.5 acres, but the homes, the houses in the neighborhood itself, and see how to bring investment into that area. And so, Catherine, when you talk about this model, and it will be good. I'm really interested to replicating it here in the city of Omaha. We intend this to be, we will have a grocery store. This is a food desert. We intend to have a grocery store. We intend for it to be to really elevate the conversation around urban agriculture, but also bring in other indigenous, food, productions, like the Iowa are producing honey at scale. They're producing meat, processing meat, and all of these things, and other examples, with the tribes. How do we find markets for these tribes in the city of Omaha, in the urban area, is the goal. But again, we're only right now at just the ideation, level. So.
Yeah, thank you, Luis. And so I'll share, we have a draft legal resource that we want to share that will be finalized in the next, month or so, and then we'll have that up on our website. So this is a real property donation agreement. And so this is something that people can feel free to get into the Google Doc. We'll share it with you and be happy to share this type of resource. So if there is an organization in your community that holds land or property, that there might be urban farming potential, or some other kind of collective food business. So this is something where if you have a land bank in your community, you could go to the land bank, certainly. But if there are other organizations that want to support your work and they hold land, they've got, an unused space. I mean, that's always worth investigating. And so that's a resource. So you definitely need Fran, our wonderful board Miller, Fran Miller, our wonderful board member at Agrarian Trust, is adding that you always have to have a lawyer in your state reviewing this. So this is going to come down to your organization, your state, your unique circumstances. So this is very much just a draft. It's just a resource. It's just a template like you might find on legal resources website. So I don't want to give any free advertising to any of those sites, but those sites that are online that have all kinds of templates and things like that. So, but that has been a way to power the project forward in the urban context. We've often had that at Agrarian Trust. We've had multiple land donations be the start for forming a commons. So whether it was an 80-acre rural property that was donated or a 5-acre urban property, that can really be a start for a collective group that's trying to collectively manage and hold land. So those are some resources we're developing around kind of helping facilitate those types of donations of property and land. And again, more will be up on our website, so definitely bookmark that link, agrariantrust.org/land, because by the end of the year, we'll have, all of our resources will be up. Probably within the next month or two, we'll have the bulk of them, but we're kind of finalizing a lot of documents that we want to share with the public, and those won't be done for a little while. But yeah, any other kind of questions and any other thoughts? Anything that anyone wants to share that you're working on? So this is very much a space for practitioners, as it's been for the last few months, just sharing what you're working on. We hand the floor off to anyone who would like to share.
Other questions or folks who want to jump in before I do? Okay. Oh, looks like we got one from Kathleen. Where is the 300-acre relative to Omaha, and what is the land like? What will you grow there? And that's actually similar to a question that I was having, which is, I know you're at the early stages here with this property, but what's kind of the future vision? Do you imagine housing being a component at some point in the future? Just really curious about all of that.
Yeah, I guess we can safely talk about it now because of the announcement today, actually, and how. So it is about exactly an hour north of Omaha, the city of Omaha, about 20 miles south of the Omaha tribe of Nebraska, and about 30 miles south of Winnebago tribe of Nebraska. It's 310 acres. So we intend to implement an agroforestry system with animal integration there, mainly poultry is what we will be implementing. There is a system. One of our partner organizations is the Regenerative Agriculture Alliance. They have this pretty good system that we want to implement on that land. We need to look into zoning and things like that. We don't intend to build an intentional community. So if my understanding as of right now, unless we want to change zoning, is that we can only have one building structure. So we probably envision a building for farm workers and things like that, but we can't have multiple homes on it. It's a farm. It's so zoned differently. So, and the importance of this land to us is because, again, we are trying to see how we can work together in this region, in the Missouri Valley corridor here. We want to work with indigenous peoples, of course. We don't have any official MOU or anything like that with any one of them, but I mean, of course, there's the Winnebago, there's the Omaha, there's the Iowa tribe of Nebraska is really, really leading, this conversation around, a foreign trade zone. They're talking about reestablishing trade routes and things like that. And so we envision building a coalition with also conventional farmers, white farmers. One of our strongest partner, Graham Christensen, 5th generation farmer. He, of course, belongs to he's a white farmer, and with just generous and really advocating for BIPOC farmers in the state of Nebraska. It's really, really working for, access to land for minorities. So we intend to, for example, if we do poultry, we don't, the Maya, we don't really want to put all of our eggs in one basket, if you will. So what we intend to do is we want to invite others to do some kind of poultry so that we have enough volume. We can justify a processing plant. And we intend to do hazelnuts. Again, that's another product that maybe it does have market. There's a market for it, but we just need to, produce it in volumes that justifies the processing plant and marketing, transportation, and things like that for something like this. And so that's the intent, and the Indigenous Peoples Summit is built around that understanding of, how, when we talk about regenerative agriculture, again, it's the same with permaculture. We're talking really, really, it's really, really Indigenous Peoples agriculture rebranded. And so what we intend to do is to have Indigenous peoples and conventional farmers side by side to really, hopefully, again, have Indigenous peoples lead the conversation on that, in that field. I hope that helps. I hope that.
Thank you, Luis. That's great. So exciting to hear about all of that. And I appreciate the clarification and building on some of what you have already shared during your presentation. I just wanted to share also for what it's worth, which may or may not be something. I covered cooperatively owned poultry processing facility, doing a case study of that out in Montana several years ago. And it ended up being a really successful case. But it was, a lot of work for them to kind of navigate the regulatory barriers at the state level to get the certification for the facility. And so I would be happy to kind of share more about that case study with you and Jean offline sometime, and in case that's a helpful model.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. And we actually have have been collaborating with a group in Montana as well that might be directly relevant to. But certainly, yeah, I'm sure that we'd love to check it out as far as the project in Nebraska. So yeah, I also wanted to mention that the resources that I shared a little bit earlier, the donation agreement, I'm getting your requests, the share requests, and I've just individually shared it with people because it's not really ready for like public consumption yet, but we trust you all. We've been with this group for months, and so we know that you'll use it, you'll have it reviewed, and you won't post it to your Facebook account, right? So it's not quite ready for public consumption, but it'll be up on Agrarian Trust's website once it is. But we're just kind of giving you a sneak peek, and if you do want to start using a document like this or adapting it for your own purpose, it's certainly at that stage where you could start to adapt it and use it. And they're also, just want to mention, in that donation agreement, there's a section on ecological stewardship and farm and ranch standards that's really unique to Agrarian Trust work, but we encourage people to take inspiration from that as well. So that was just a note about that. So anyone who wanted access, you should have access to it. So feel free to get in there and take a look. And if you have any questions about it as you take a look at it and work with it, we'd love to get your feedback on it as well. So yeah, any other thoughts? We have about 10 minutes left. I saw that we've lost some people, so I know people have had to run, but we do have a little bit more time together. So if there's any thoughts that people have to share or any questions, we'll just start to wrap up.
Jean, I saw in the chat there was a question from Robin. Are there easements involved in the land donation?
It depends, actually. If Nathan's still here, we could speak to kind of some of our work around easements. Not always. With some of the land, we haven't. It's just varied so widely. Nathan, I wonder if you might be able to, if you'd like to add a few thoughts. We have someone from AT, and we've been working on one of our projects hasn't have an easement involved. So Nathan, don't want to put you on the spot too much, but I would appreciate.
No, that's fine. The short answer to that is in the context of this Nebraska Regeneration project, the land currently does not have an easement. And in terms of Agrarian Trust, we have taken land into the commons that already has an easement on it. Although as a general rule, Agrarian Trust doesn't place conservation easements on land as a default method of conservation. We really like to leave that choice and that opportunity up to the commons governance to decide if that's the route that they want to go. So if that helps.
Yeah, that was perfect. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So it depends. I know that's a like not an answer, but it is our answer. Yeah.
It always depends.
And that's Fran Miller's favorite answer. So I see her smiling there. I see Fran cracking up. Yeah.
We're definitely interested in learning about easement conservation easements on this project. We want to explore that. I think that's a good option for sure.
And I guess another thing that I would add too is besides the conservation easement, given the collaboration with other indigenous nations there in Nebraska, a cultural respect easement would also be something interesting to explore. But anyway.
Wow, I wasn't aware of that. And I think it was Athena before that talked about a little bit or asked about or mentioned land back. That's definitely a topic on the that we will be on the Indigenous People Summit program here. We'll be talking about that too. So
just know that you have our emails. You can follow up with us. We don't disappear when the Zoom turns off. We're still here, and we'd be happy to follow up with people as you have questions and learn more about all the amazing work that's going on. So yeah, thank you again, Luis, for joining us. I guess if there's no other questions, we can wrap up. And if the group has any announcements or anyone wants to share any announcements or upcoming events, feel free.
Great. Well, I will just say, let's collectively send a wave of gratitude to Louise. I hope you can feel it over there. Thank you so much. This was a really special session, as Jean said, and oh, I guess Mia said in the chat also, and we really appreciate you being here and just having an hour and a half of community with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The feeling is mutual. I'm more grateful, and I see you've been responding to some of the good vibes being sent, and that you will be sharing the slides. So yeah, I hope that our path crosses soon.
Right, and I'm sure it will. Thanks everyone so much for being here. And we will look forward to seeing you. I think July 30th is our next scheduled date, last Tuesday of July. We'll send out more details for that session. And certainly in the meantime, we'll get that recording and slides over to you all so that you can share those out and take some time with them. I think a couple team members are going to linger here, but otherwise we'll say farewell to everyone for now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.